When divisions feel sharp, Michigan Public brings us together. Our balanced reporting highlights shared experiences and different perspectives. This fall member drive support the reporters and fact-checkers who make it possible at michiganpublic.org.
It's so funny to watch people go down. You know, they've got their nice shirts on and they're just like cruising down, and then they come up and they're like red-faced and they're on all fours and they don't have shirts on anymore because it's so deceiving. I think you go down, you're like, this is so easy, and you turn around and you're like, what did I just do?
Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore is an absolute Michigan treasure, and also kind of a formidable foe. That voice we heard, that was Jill Young, a tourist that we met at the lakeshore this summer. After watching some folks climb a particularly steep hill, she decided, rather wisely, not to follow in their footsteps. The main dune climb is a challenge, sure, but have you ever done the dune drop? It's a 450-foot, 45-degree angle of an otherworldly nature.
This is terrifying.
The national park spans 65 miles of Lake Michigan's shoreline. If you've never seen it, you should know that Sleeping Bear is not merely a big, tall sandhill. It's more like lakeside Tatooine. But like any natural wonder, the dune drop at Sleeping Bear Dunes Overlook comes with a warning for eager adventurers.
I already see the warning sign. Avoid getting stuck at the bottom. Lake levels are high, the only way out is up. Rescue costs $3,000. Keep yourself and our rescuers out of danger.
$3,000. What is happening on this hill? And what could $3,000 possibly go toward? This is On Hand, a podcast that's here to answer all of your questions about all of the things that make us uniquely Michigander. I'm April Bear. Today, why do people need to be rescued from this legendary beast at Sleeping Bear Dunes? Producer Ronia Kavansug is on hand with some answers and some sand in her shoes. Ronia, hi.
Hi, April.
Folks may know, if they've been there, that there are actually a couple of different ways to get into Sleeping Bear Dunes. Can you explain where the sign is that we're talking about? Where did you see the warning sign?
Yes, exactly. So where we saw the warning sign is not the other well-known dune climb that is across from Glen Lake. That one is kind of a series of hills, and you can climb up and roller coaster your way up and down these hills all the way to the shoreline of Lake Michigan. And some of those get pretty steep, but none of them are beyond like sledding hills steepness. We went somewhere called Overlook Number 9. That is along the Pierce-Stocking Scenic Drive. That is this 7-ish mile loop that you can drive through, and there are these little stops along the way where you can get out and appreciate creation. And one of those stops, again, Overlook Number 9, is that big 450-foot overlook that puts you right over Lake Michigan. That's where we saw this warning sign.
I've done the dune climb, and it was a lot, but I've never done Overlook Number 9. What's it like up at the top?
It is really surreal. I actually went there for the first time a couple years ago, and I felt like it was the end of the world. So you get off at the overlook. It's a couple dozen yards of sandy ground, and then it looks like the world just falls off. But if you creep up to that edge, you'll see it's not really a cliff. In fact, you can walk all the way down upright on 2 feet, but you have to climb all the way back up.
And Ronia, did you do the climb?
Well, I feel sweaty. I feel, honestly, everyone on the way up was telling me they felt sore in the hamstrings and the calves, but I just feel like out of breath. Like I'm not that sore yet. I'll be sore tomorrow, I think. But it's beautiful down there. It's almost beautifuler up here. The strategy, I think, is step in other people's footsteps, go slow and take breaks, bring water, control your breath, and don't go down. That's it.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. I wouldn't do it again. I do want a medal for doing it the one time.
Do people really get stuck going back up Overlook Number 9?
Yes. In fact, we obtained a 911 call from one such situation.
Leland on 911. What's the address of the emergency?
I'm in the national park.
Where in the national park?
I'm on the big hill that goes down to the water.
Okay, what's the phone number you're calling from?
Overlook number 9.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
My 17-year-old daughter coming back up the hill. She can't really move because she can't see.
So keep going. Tell me what's going on.
Okay, we're coming back up the hill.
Right.
She's saying she can't see. She's breathing. She's talking, but she can't really get up.
How far from the top are you?
We're just about 20 feet down from the top.
All right, let me get some help up there for you.
Okay,
Stay
thank
on
you.
the line.
Okay.
I'm going to go through some more questions with you, okay?
Okay.
All right, one moment.
I'm fine.
But is she really?
I know, you can hear her at the very end say, "I'm fine." It's scary. I mean, people really get stuck out there. But you can probably tell this is not a $3,000 rescue, the one that we just heard. We don't know the exact details, but this sounds more like someone maybe got severely dehydrated and needed some shade and water. Again, we don't know for sure. But those $3,000 rescues are actually pretty rare. What happens more often is kind of like a lower level rescue where a park ranger will spot you on the side of the hill, see that you're struggling, and basically come down and kind of pep talk you up the rest of the way.
A soft rescue.
Exactly, yes.
I keep a backpack up here that's full of mostly bottled water, pretzels, electrolytes, and I have a shade umbrella. So a lot of what happens is I'll go down to somebody that's in trouble. I'll hand them a bottle of water. I'll give them a bag of pretzels. I'll put some shade on them.
Michael Kohl is a preventative search and rescue ranger at the Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore. So he does these pep talks all day. He hands out snacks. He keeps the whole trip fun and safe for tourists coming by. That is like a no-charge type of rescue. That's not our $3,000 rescue. But he can tell you about that, and I'll let him take it from here.
Thank you, Ronia.
Sure thing.
Okay, so we're going to take a little break here, and when we come back, Michael is going to share what goes into a rescue, how to avoid needing one, and, bonus, a semi-secret hack if you want to go down and come back up without actually climbing the big hill. Stick around.
My name is Mike Kohl, and I am the park's preventative search and rescue ranger here at Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore.
So this is it. Mike is about to let us in on the secrets of the Bear Dunes rescue. But first, he wanted to make it very clear. The dune climb in Glen Arbor and the dune drop overlook on Stocking Drive are two very different experiences at two totally different locations. The dune climb is a 3.5-mile hilly journey from the parking lot up and down the trail to the lakeshore. That number 9 overlook at Pierce Stocking Drive is our 450-foot mega steep hill leading straight into the lake. I talked to Mike while he was at Sleeping Bear, and I was here in the studio. And he told me that the confusion over the two dunes is actually a big problem, and one of the reasons that tourists need rescuing in the first place.
The biggest mistake is just the overall orientation problem that we have in the park. Because when you're at the dune climb, a lot of folks don't know what's out there. They're often looking for the view that you're going to get at the top of number 9. So this lack of orientation facilitates a lack of planning and preparation, because folks leave the car not intending to necessarily hike 2 miles out to the lakeshore, and then they go to the top of this first hill and they go, I don't see it, let's go to the top of the next hill. Oh, I don't see it, let's go to the top of the next hill. And by then they work themselves 2 miles from the parking lot without shoes, sunscreen, water, pretty much anything. And the sand temperatures is one of the biggest problems that we have, is folks go without wearing any kind of footwear. So we always recommend to at least have a pair of sandals in your bag, or even carry a pair of socks at the very least, will help you from those sand temperatures that reach upwards of 150 degrees.
Can you explain where you are?
Yeah, so I'm standing at the number 9 overlook on the Pier Stocking Scenic Drive. It is kind of the crown jewel in the park. It is one of the most popular spots, and it is the infamous hill that is now becoming more and more viral every day, Instagram, TikTok, etc., of this famous rescue sign that we have up here. So I'm standing right up here next to our rescue sign on the Scenic Drive number 9 overlook. The sign that's currently up here I don't know that it's doing what we intended it to do back in 2019 when it was installed, because now what we see is this sign is the most photographed thing in the park, to my knowledge. So folks are coming to get their before picture, go down the hill, come back up and get their after picture. So either way, yeah, either one of them, number 9 or the dune climb, it is a trek to get out to the water and back.
Well, like you say, the signs that were put up in 2019 are warning people, if you need a rescue up here, it's going to cost you $3,000.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what goes into a rescue operation?
Absolutely. So the $3,000 rescue is Glen Lake Fire Department's cost for a multi-agency technical rope rescue. So if somebody were to fall and break a leg or have a medical emergency and they're somewhere between halfway and the top, the fire department will come out, we'll anchor to a big wooden post that we have out here, and we'll set up a mechanical advantage rope system, and we will drag them back up the hill, and that's really time intensive and labor intensive, and that's Glen Lake Fire Department's cost for recovery on that operation. Any call that comes out here first comes to a ranger, unless there's a known medical emergency on the other side of the line. We get a lot of third-party calls, so folks that are reporting somebody's in duress when they're not actually in duress. So in 2021, we changed how we respond out in the park. So if a 911 call comes in at either number 9 overlook or the dune climb, it's going to come to rangers first, and we'll get out and vet what's going on, and then we'll call in additional resources. Just
to be clear, this is not a rescue that people get when they're just exhausted and they feel like they can't finish, they can't make it to the top, right?
No, this is more so somebody's having a medical emergency or they've had a traumatic injury. We do a lot of lower level stuff where I keep a backpack up here that's full of mostly bottled water, pretzels, electrolytes, and I have a shade umbrella. So a lot of what happens is I'll go down to somebody that's in trouble, I'll hand them a bottle of water, I'll give them a bag of pretzels, I'll put some shade on them, and depending on how they respond to that, I'll usually try to pep talk them back up to the top, or I'll hike them back out to North Bar Lake and we'll both get a ride back to the top. Most folks will leave the parking lot. Similarly, at the dune climb here at number 9, they leave the parking lot without shoes, water, sunscreen, really a plan. They come out here, they see the hill. There's a lot of herd mentality. They see folks going down the hill and they think, what's the worst that could happen? And about 2/3 of the way down, the hill drops off a foot and the bottom third is the steepest portion. So what gets most folks into trouble is they try to come up the bottom third too fast. They gas all of their energy. They didn't bring a bottle of water or a bag of pretzels or anything to replenish the energy. And they look at and see what's still above them. And the mental game kind of kicks in. It's kind of what we call a failure to thrive. They're down there and they're not going to make it back up without some kind of intervention.
Is it ever kids or is it usually just overconfident adults?
I've seen the star 17-year-old athlete get into trouble. I've seen it runs the gamut. I see the 0% body fat triathletes get into trouble because I think it's more about daily personal nutrition and hydration than I think overall fitness, because we get folks that are plenty fit, but if they maybe aren't fully hydrated and they didn't eat anything today, they can get themselves into a bad spot again.
Has the number of people who've needed an actual medical rescue varied much from year to year?
Not in the last several years. So in 2016, when we started the preventative search and rescue program, I want to say we had somewhere around 35 search and rescue calls and another 56 911 calls to the area. Last year, in the last 5 years, it's pretty much been consistent 10 and 10 search and rescues, 10 911 calls. So roughly a 90% reduction in 911 calls to the area and about a 70% reduction in search and rescue operations overall. Every year it varies on where we'll have kind of the hot spot, whether we'll have more rescues over here at the Overlook or we'll have more rescues on the Dune Trail. Last year it was the Overlook. We had 8 rescues here at the Overlook and only 2 on the Dune Trail last year.
Mike, I don't know if this is asking you to give away too much of a trade secret, but are you willing to share with us the secret for how to get back to the beginning without making the climb?
I don't mind. So if you were to walk down the hill at the number 9 Overlook and turn left, you are 1 mile from a spot in the park called North Bar Lake, where you're parked right at the level of the water. Now that walk out to North Bar Lake is not going to get you back to your car up top at the number 9 Overlook. So we try to give folks this information ahead of time, and they will hopefully do one of 2 things. They will either take a car and stage it over at North Bar Lake, and then they'll have their team hike down and over to North Bar Lake and get picked up. Or we'll have folks that'll start at North Bar Lake, they'll hike into the bottom of the number 9 Overlook, they'll attempt to climb it from the bottom, and that way if they don't make it to the top, they just turn around and head back to North Bar.
Every time I'm at Sleeping Bear Dunes, I don't quite understand how the structure of dunes work, but I see people running up and down these enormous mountains of sand. And I just wonder if there's such a thing as erosion from all the foot traffic of people traveling the paths. Is that a thing?
It is very much a thing. If you stand up on the number 9 Overlook and you look down where the folks are traveling down the hill, you can see a very obvious cut in the landscape where if you look to the left or the right, if it weren't for folks going up and down this hill all day, every day, the landscape would look like it does on either the left or the right.
You know, I don't want to put a damper on anyone's summer fun, but honestly, why keep number 9 open at all if there's erosion and all these warnings about climbing it?
Yeah, because the Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore was set aside for recreational value. Yes, the Park Service has a mission to preserve unimpaired, the natural and cultural resources and values for this and future generations. But also this park was set aside for recreation. This is a park that you really can feel and experience and connect with. And I believe it's kind of if it's going to happen, let's have it happen here and centralize it versus having it happen all up and down the bluffs here in Empire and up in Pyramid Point. I think it's kind of a sacrifice zone.
Mike, did I hear you say there might be some new signage going up at the dunes?
There is going to be some new signage here at number 9. It's in development. I think they're working on getting a temporary one out, but essentially it's going to have some messaging about the erosion that it causes. It's going to have an image of where you are on the landscape in relation to Empire and North Bar Lake area, so without saying it explicitly, folks can see, it looks like there's a way out from the bottom. But there will also be the message about the erosive processes, and it is discouraged to go down the hill.
We've been talking with Michael Kohl. He's a preventative search and rescue ranger at Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore. Mike, thank you so much for talking to us, and thank you for the work you do at the dunes.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity.
The signage at Overlook number 9 was replaced this summer after we talked to Mike. The new sign shows a wide shot of the landscape and where exactly you are standing. And the text next to it reads, "Choosing to stay on top of the bluff protects this place. Each person descending the vertical face moves sand and rock, damaging the dune." There is no mention of that $3,000 rescue, but the sign does say in big bold letters, "Down is optional." And that if you must go down, take water, sun protection, and shoes. You can find photos of both the old sign and the new one at the link in today's podcast notes. Another interesting note for those of you who have been to this infamous dune drop before, the deck overlook point at the top of the dune that shoots out toward Lake Michigan was removed this year. It had been shored up for years due to shifting sands, but this year the erosion and the movement just proved too much, and the deck was removed for safety. Representatives from the National Lakeshore say it's possible it will be replaced in years to come, but there's no current plan to do so. If you have a Bear Dunes story of your own, maybe you accidentally cartwheeled down the hill and lived to tell the tale, or witnessed an emergency rescue, we want to hear about it. We might just include it in next week's episode. There's a submission form you can find in today's podcast notes. You can share your story there. Either just type it out or record a voice memo. We can't wait to hear from you. That's on hand for this week. I'm April Bear. This episode was produced by Ronia Kapansag with help from Mercedes Mejia. Thanks to production assistant Itai Smotrich-Barr for tracking down that 911 call that we listened to. If you have a Michigan question of your own, please send it our way. We'd love to hear from you. You can find the submission form in our show notes, or just head to michiganpublic.org. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.